In this video, I'm going to show you how you can play a 12-bar blues solo using only chords like this. So essentially what's going on there is I'm playing a variety of dominant 7th chords over a 12-bar blues in G. I'm not playing any single line notes, right? So we're going to dive into that. I'll teach you the whole solo later in the video, but we're also going to talk about how I arrived at those chord shapes and how you can find them on your own, put them in other keys, practice them all over the guitar. It's a really, really important concept that we should have under our fingers. And of course, we'll take a pause and we'll talk about what I'm playing. I'm playing a brand new Gibson Les Paul Special in, of course, classic TV yellow. We'll talk about that. We'll hear the guitar a little bit and talk about the love of P90s that me and a lot of other folks watching this have. All right, so let's dive in and talk about how we got to that solo, and then we'll break the solo down, and of course, we'll talk about the guitar. So the chords I was playing are ones that I really like to add to a blues solo, particularly when the intensity starts to ramp up, okay? I like to add some of that sort of quasi horn section stab. It's a really fun thing to add to your solo. Now, what some of you are going to say is like, I know what you're doing. Those are drop 2 voicings. Well, indeed, they are drop 2 voicings. I only think of them as dominant 7th chords, but we want to make sure we know what the heck a drop 2 voicing is and why we're playing it. I also want to caution you to think about it, as 7th chords. Try not to think about it as drop 2 all the time, because you don't want to be on the bandstand and be like, well, I got to use this then, and I got to use that now. You play what feels good and sounds good and comfortable once you've digested it. And hopefully this lesson will help put something new in your vocabulary. All right, so how do I get this chord? Like this one, for instance. Well, you're probably saying that kind of looks like it came from that G7 chord, and you wouldn't be wrong. But when it comes to the concept of drop 2, what happens is if you take your note on the top there, let's take the highest one for that chord, G, and then we want to add other notes in the same octave, and we walk down the scale, or you can't play all those on the guitar in a successive manner like you can on a piano. They would call that a closed voicing. G, F, D, B, they'd be all in one hand really tight, okay? What we do to get around that is we take the second note we played, which is G, F, and we drop it an octave. Second note dropped, drop 2. Okay, so the F goes down an octave. Now don't worry about finding this on your own. I got it written all out. Just learn the shapes. I'm here just to tell you this is what makes it valid, okay? Now once you play that F, which is the flat 7 of that chord, of the G7 chord, we need to add notes within it, okay? So the next available one on the 3rd string is a B. Next available one on the 2nd string is a D, that's the 5th. Next available one is the root on the 1st string, okay? So now we have our first little G7 shape with the F in the bass. Could it be called a G7/F? Yes, but don't think about that. Just think about it as a G7 chord and use it when you think it sounds good. And of course, you can see it there too. So, but that's a little 4-note G7 drop 2 shape. Now, we want to use a G note, and we want to build a 7th chord from it using this concept. The next note is D, that's closest. Next closest note is the F on the 2nd string, and then the 1st string, get your B. So there's another G7 shape with 4 notes on those top 4 strings. Again, it's all transcribed for you. Just learn the shapes, try to apply it. Now as we move up, we want to go to a B, which is right there. We had an F, we had a G, we have a B. Because we're building the chord this way and it's inverting itself as it's moving up. So you have B, F, G, and D on the top. Pretty cool. G, B, D. Again, all transcribed for you. Now, the last note we want to add is our D in the bass and build a chord off of it. You've probably seen this in a more open style, like an A7. You hear Stevie Ray Vaughan do stuff like that, okay? But we're taking it way up here because that's what's available to us. We have D, G, B, and F. And then we would just be back to the octave way up there, okay? So now what we can do is and of course, I'm just moving it a half step below and going into it. Now, what about when we want to go to the 4 chord? Well, this is up to you now to start transposing. We want to take the next available C7 in one of those shapes. So what I might do is, if I was you, is I would say, okay, I know that shape. G's on the top. Let me move it all the way up here to where C is on the top. And then I have a D7 as well. Okay? And you start to play around and you start to find those C7s and D7s. And I can play a blues all day just on those strings. I could do something like this. Totally improvised, 3, 4. Okay, really, really fun stuff. That's really what I wanted to show you in this lesson was like, hey, this is an important system and it also happens on other string sets, but we're just gonna work on the top 4 strings right now, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Transpose it into C7 and D7 and it's gonna really open up a lot of cool things for you, okay? So enough about that. Let's talk about this Les Paul Special and then let's talk about what I actually play in the lesson. So a quick pause from the lesson to talk about this guitar. This is a brand new American-made Gibson Les Paul Special in the classic TV yellow color. So these guitars, you know, I've always sort of lusted after them. They just look so damn cool in my opinion. But they're also a very fun, functional instrument as well. I love P90s, and we'll talk about them in a moment. But these instruments got introduced in 1955 and were kind of like the intermediate guitar compared to the juniors of the day, and then, of course, your bona fide Les Pauls of the time. It's funny to think that this was an intermediate guitar, or even juniors were a beginner guitar, but hey, that's what it was, right? So this fell right in the middle. They put a bound fingerboard on it, which the juniors didn't have. This is a mahogany body, like a slab mahogany body. And of course, the classic TV yellow color, wraparound tailpiece, 2 P90 pickups, and their respective controls. The wraparound tailpiece, it's not the best for everybody, but you can upgrade them. There's companies out there like Music City Bridge that makes a nice replacement, keeps it a little bit more stable, and is a little lighter, might intonate a little bit better. But I've been playing this guitar fresh out of the box from Sweetwater, and the setup is great. It just took a little, moment or two to kind of get the strings to kind of settle in. That happens on any new set of strings, that you get on any guitar or when you restring. And I'm playing it. I'm going to play it through a modeler first, and we'll play it through an amp. I'm going through a Universal Audio Enigmatic amp modeler, and I actually even have pedals plugged into it, so it kind of gives me that sort of amp experience. And I do that when I'm teaching sometimes, but lots of times I'm using the amps too. All right, so let's talk about the neck pickup. Now these P90s, to me, it's like a warmer single coil. It is a single coil, but it's not quite as bitey and snappy as what we know on Strats and Tellies. So it's warm, yeah. Bridge pickup. Again, not quite as bright as a Telly or a Strat. Wait till we put some overdrive. Yeah, then it'll speak. Now, the sound I really love on this guitar particularly is the middle position. Check this out. Really nice and chimey. I'll use my juniors in place of a Telly a lot. And it has a little bit of that Strat thing that wants to come out. It's going to be tough with a mahogany guitar of this scale length, but it definitely has single coil qualities. All right, so let's plug it into an amp and get some gain going. All right, so I hooked up the 73 100 watt Marshall here. It's going to an aux box and then out to your ears. And it's giving me all the goodness of that old Marshall. But I got the bridge pickup turned down a smidge. Check this out. You can hear the amp humming a little bit. P90s can have some noise to them. Get a little bit of that static every once in a while. That's why I use the modeler sometimes in lessons. It's a little quieter, but man, this feels pretty great. Turn the volume down on the neck pickup. Middle. I got a lesson to teach here. I could do this all day, but brand new, straight out of the box, Gibson Les Paul Special. My honest opinion, I wish Gibson made more instruments of this quality at this price range. They do a handful of them, you know, because we kind of associate them with being, you know, these guitars that are astronomical and out of most of our reach financially. But at $17.99-ish or whatever, this is a solid guitar, okay? Yeah, so I always wanted to try one. I wanted to do a lesson like this. Seemed like the perfect marriage. There you go. All right, let's do some teaching. So we've heard the guitar and we understand how we're getting the chords to play this kind of thing. Let me walk you through what I played in that 12-bar solo. We'll start with a G7, because that's our one chord in our 12-bar blues in G. And we'll start with that one, where we have the B, the B, F, G, and D. And I'm gonna apply this kind of rhythm, a 3, 4. And what I'm doing there is just playing play, slide, down a half step. Then I'll go, and I'll use that G7 with the G, D, F, and B, same sliding motion. This is all transcribed for you. Then I'll get to a C7. I'll pick my closest one. That's the shape we learned for G7 up here, but we're gonna put it there, starting on the 5th fret with the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st strings, G, C, E, and B flat. And I'll go ba, ba, ba. And I'm gonna play that C7, which is the same shape as this G7. Way down here we have E, B flat, C, and G. Okay? Back to this G7. So what I do there is I call and I respond. Then, okay? So I'm kind of going between these shapes a lot, all right? Then what I'll do there, and sometimes my pinky just goes there instead of my 3rd finger. Either way is fine. That's what I'm gonna use for my D7, and I'll play a triplet rhythm. And that's gonna be 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. Okay, so I do it for 3 beats, and then I play 8th notes. So I'll go. So da 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 da. Then I need to play a quarter note on the end of that phrase. Then back to here. Okay, from that G7, I'll play a D7 and then a D7. Okay, so G7s, GCs, and D7s, that's all we need, okay? But we're all using shapes we already learned earlier in the video, okay? So we want this, we want this, we want this, we want that, back to here, to a D7. Check out those last 2 measures where we're going, whoops. Because it's G7, D7, another D7, back to 1. Okay, so when I teach this kind of stuff, a lot of my students at Working Class Guitar, my guitar lesson website, they try to play everything exactly like I'm playing it, and that's really cool. But when we're playing the blues and we're playing this kind of stuff, improvisation is the name of the game. If you get this, 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 and this, play around and make some of your own melodies up. So I'm using the same chords, but I'm veering off of the phrasing. That's totally okay, all right? Because you want to have fun and you want to digest it and play it the way you hear it and feel it, all right? That's just a little overview of the actual solo I played at the very top of the video, but that's where we're headed. I'm doing this stuff all the time where maybe I'm playing... Now I need a C7, oh. How about a D7? They're all there if you can get them. Pretty hard to grab that one way up high, but they're all there and can make for some really fun additives to your blues solos. So that was a lot, but it's the start of a really cool journey that helps you find chords on your own. And that's what the drop 2 chords have really helped me to do and improve my rhythm playing and then insert that stuff into my blues solos too. Okay, it's really, really fun once you start to get a handle on it, and it feels very empowering to not just play the same shapes you got from an old chord book or from a song or that sort of thing, okay? Someday I'm gonna put a course out, hopefully in the near future, that has, you know, some deeper explanation on this with dominant 7 chords, major 7s, minor 7s, that sort of thing, because it really opens up the guitar for you. Speaking of the guitar, once again, had a lot of fun playing this Gibson Les Paul Special. This is straight up standard USA made. I think it's a really good value, like I mentioned. And we got it from our friends at Sweetwater. I wanted to try this, so I got a Les Paul Special from them, and they said, hey, let's sponsor your video at the same time. They've been a great partner over the years and really helped us when we're looking to showcase some stuff on the channel. So go check this guitar out in the links below and visit sweetwater.com. And you can visit my site, workingclassguitar.com. That's where this PDF and backing track will live. You just sign up for a free account, go download this stuff, and a whole host of other free lessons with content that are not only on YouTube, but live on my site with all of the assets, okay? It's a really, really fun environment that we're building over there. Loads and loads of courses. Check it out. You'll get, emails occasionally for sales and all the stuff we're doing. And unsubscribe anytime. Subscribe, sign up back when you want. No pressure. It's all about your journey and making it as easy for you as possible. That's what we like to do, not only on the channel, but at Working Class Guitar. All right, I've said enough. Go play these chords in your blues solos. Have fun. I'll see you next time.